Hey!
This is JJ and Alex.
I made a name for myself, I told you I won't be denied.
As you wrap up your day, it's time to get your fix of the teams you live for and the sports you love. This is JJ and Alex, presented by G2G Bars on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
What's going on, everybody? It's a week. It's a week we wait for. Once a year.
Rivalry weekend.
That's right, Coach Whittingham.
Rivalry weekend.
It's Rivalry Week. It's here. It's go time. It's back. We've gone 2 years without it. So now BYU versus Utah. The rivalry game. The game with the name that we're not allowed to say here on this radio station. Unless it's a promo. Not going to catch me saying it. I like my job. We're trying to be more civil here. Speaking of civil, welcome Stevenson Sylvester into the show today, everybody.
You're going to equate Steven Sylvester with civil? That's new. I'll take it.
You sense the irony in my statement.
Yes.
Look at it. Jared, we don't have cameras, but you can't see right now. Sly's got his shades on.
Oh, it's all about business this week. Those guys are lucky I'm not wearing Black Forces right now. I'll pull out my Black Forces for the rest of the week.
Not only are you indoors, you're in a studio with no windows.
Yeah, all business. All business today.
Okay. The lights are too bright for Sly. You had to put his shades on.
Oh, man.
It's Rivalry Week, Sly.
I am so excited. It's hard not playing, because, I just want to – you just hate that color. Like, me wearing blue jeans today is kind of, bothering me.
Even the jeans?
Even the jeans.
Wow.
Yeah,
that sounds like a you problem today if you chose that outfit.
That's hatred.
First of all, there was business that needed to be had, so, I had to be appropriate. So shorts were not an option today, Jeremy. But, yeah, no, man, I am so jacked for this week. Actually, the last 2 weeks, these guys, everybody's been posting rivalry posts all over social media, talking about it in conversation with so many people, just bringing up so many great memories. I'm in this alumni group chat with the guys, and we're all talking about it. It just brings back so many good things for the city, and especially for me. I can't wait to get this going. I think Saturday's just going to be absolutely rocking.
Has the 4-game losing streak impacted the hype and excitement around this game?
Oh, yeah. I mean, well, I think it has because, Utah fans have so much expectation for this team. And the fact that, BYU did great, which is just even more unexpected. And what we could have been doing should have been the matchup. This should be a top 10 matchup today, right?
Yes.
And so I think that's kind of what everybody's kind of hanging their hat on and upset about. But all in all, this is the BYU-Utah game. In the past, there's been games where both of these teams weren't ranked, and it was absolutely epic, right? So rankings, expectations, whatever out the window. This game is here. As you said, we haven't had it in 2 years, and even then, it just hasn't been the same, right? We haven't had this game this late in the season in over a decade. This is awesome. Actually, no, I think the 2018 we had it late in the season. But the impacts weren't there. This is still conference. This is we could potentially ruin somebody's season here. This is absolutely awesome to have back with this type of stuff on it.
I think the rivalry has been in cruise control a little bit.
Yes, for sure.
I think that 2019 was the last really intense, really there was a fire there that I haven't seen since. Mm-hmm. Now, to give that context, what happened in 2020? They didn't play because of the pandemic, right? So we didn't have a game that year. 2021 was still pandemic-y, if that's a word. You know what I mean? Like,
it still had that,
we were just grateful to have football back, and the teams didn't play the previous year, and there was a whole lot of we're just glad to be here kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And obviously we saw the result. BYU had a roster with some NFL guys on it. and they beat BYU. They beat Utah. They earned it. They deserved it. Jaren Hall was the best player on the field that night, and Utah got it going a little too late in that game with Mekhi Bernard, but the quarterback situation was weird in that game. It was not Cam Rising. It was somebody that nobody even remembers.
Senior Brewer.
That's right, who threw the ball 20 feet over his receivers repeatedly and never played another down for Utah football. No, he played San Diego State the next week. And then
it was even worse.
He never started a game after that, but you get what I'm saying. So it was not this, I don't know, there was just not a lot on the line. It was early in the season again. Then 2 years we go by not playing. So this is 3 out of the last 4 seasons that this game hasn't even been played. And the games previous to that weren't on a national scale. They weren't as relevant. They were earlier in the season. There wasn't something at stake like there is this time around. But I don't think everyone's woken up to that. Mm-hmm. If that's, I don't know that everybody is really dialed in on this game like it has been in the past.
Rivalry weekend.
And Kyle's right. We got to wake up. It's rivalry week, everybody. This is a fun week. You know, talking about the rivalry and all the stuff that goes on around it in June or July probably bores you. But this is game week for both teams. Now, there's a lot at stake, Sly, for both of these teams, and we're going to get into this throughout the show. Real quick before we get to the cut, though, I want to bring this up, is for Utah, they've got to end this losing streak because if it gets to 5 games, you're staring at 4-5 with the schedule that lies ahead. Like, I don't know what the long-term impact, short-term and long-term impact will be for Utah to have a losing season. But if they can't get this one and they continue tracking the way they are, it's hard to see them getting to 6-6 and getting to a bowl game.
Right.
On the other side of it, the stakes are as high as they have ever been for BYU. Everything is falling into place for the Cougars. And give BYU credit. They have earned this. They have done everything they needed to do up to this point to set them up and put them in this position. They are 8-0. They are ranked 9th in the country. Tomorrow we find out where they're ranked in the college football playoff rankings. I believe it will be in the top 10.
Yeah.
Which tells us that even if they were not able to win the Big 12 championship game, if that's their only loss, they'd probably have a chance at an at-large. They have a lot at stake here. And a win over Utah gets them one step closer. A loss to Utah, all bets are off. Everything could go backwards for BYU with a loss to Utah, who's 4-4 right now.
Right.
So the pressure's on BYU in this rivalry game, whereas in the past you could argue it was on Utah.
Always on Utah, yeah.
Utah had more to play for. Utah had the streak. BYU was just trying to break through. They could pull out all the stops. They had nothing to lose. This feels different to me. This also starts a new chapter in the rivalry. A new chapter of being in the same conference, but on the highest stage of college football. In the past, all of us here in Utah love the rivalry, basically from 1993 all the way up until 2021. Well, I'll even take from 1993 to 2010. It was a conference matchup. And then there was another chapter in the rivalry with Utah in the Pac-12. BYU was an independent, didn't play every year. Some of the intensity of the rivalry was tempered and subsided a little bit. And I don't want to call it dormant, but for the last 4 years, it's felt a little dormant. But now, Sly, we start a new chapter in the rivalry's history, and the stakes have never been higher. But I don't think any of us understand that, but I think we will once the clock strikes 0 on Saturday night. It's going to be a fun week. We're going to get into a lot of this Utah-BYU stuff. But first, we got to give some love to our sponsor, G2G Bars. This show is brought to you by G2G Bars. With all natural ingredients, no preservatives, and plenty of protein, G2G Bars are perfect for anyone who needs a tasty and nutritious boost. I mentioned how things are lining up for BYU. They didn't play this week, but their prospects got even better, and I'll explain why next. It's The Cut.
It's time for the biggest story of the day. This is what made the cut with JJ and Alex on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
BYU and Utah fans, since you didn't have any games featuring your own team to play this week, what did you watch? watch on Saturday? What did you watch, Sly? What were you paying attention to on Saturday without a Utah game?
Man, I was trying to look to see, finally without a Utah game, I was looking at all of these teams that have potential Heisman guys. The Boise States, the Miamis, the Ole Miss, the Colorados. Colorado had a bye week as well. But just trying to see exactly, like, okay, are these guys for real? Like, what is all that? And, yeah, man, I just thought that was very interesting this weekend, trying to get a broad scope of the college football landscape, and you do your own guesstimations. This month of November, this is scary November, right? October was scary October for Utah fans, but traditionally, college football, November is when things get really hairy. That's when some of your teams that are doing well get really tight and big upsets happen, as we've seen this past weekend. Texas A&M went down. A couple other teams, Ohio State went down. It's only going to happen more and more these next few weeks. And so November is a very scary time for a lot of teams here. And understandably, this is why Alabama and them always schedule a very easy team late in the season, right?
Yep.
And to make it a little easier. So essentially they get another bye week in November with that case. But that's what I was paying attention to this weekend. So, man, just looking at that and understanding where college football is, it's wide open, man. And this playoffs, and it's going to, what's going to be funny is we're going to get to the end of the season and there's going to be somebody left out of the 12-team playoff.
Oh, no doubt.
And we're just going to be like, should we extend it to 16? It's going to be absolutely crazy. And just to know that fact right there it's going to be interesting. So I can't wait for the storylines to come out here in November.
Yeah, you look at the rankings right now, and you look at the top 10, which is what we're focused on, with BYU being involved in that. Oregon's rolling right now. They look like the best team in the country. Right. They've got that big win over Ohio State. Although they needed a field goal to beat Boise State, by the way. So we've never had more parity in recent memory that I can think of in college football, Sly, and I think it's just going to continue on that trend with NIL and other reasons. But Georgia rolls. Ohio State knocks off Penn State, so they're at number 3. Miami, 9-0, number 4 with no top 25 wins. Are the Hurricanes a fraud? We will find out soon, hopefully. But the ACC's so down.
The ACC's so bad.
Maybe we won't find out.
Yeah.
Until it's too late and they're in the playoff and they get waxed, kind of like a Florida State thing last year.
But Florida State got waxed and literally 20 guys didn't play in that game.
Well,
20 starters didn't play in that game.
And their quarterback was hurt. I get it.
Yeah.
But weird anyway. And obviously they haven't been the same. Texas had a bye. They're at 5. Penn State drops to 6. They dropped 3 spots after losing to Ohio State. Tennessee stays at 7 after beating Kentucky. Indiana, welcome to the Hoosiers.
Wow.
9-0.
Murdering.
Again, another team that has not beat a top 25 team this year. In fact, the teams they beat are not even good.
Yeah.
But they're absolutely annihilating
Style
them.
points, right? You can only play the people on your schedule.
It reminds me of the 2004 Utes, where they just had to play who was on their schedule.
Right.
But they just absolutely crushed everybody.
And there's reasons behind all that, and that's why I like that. And I think Indiana, the way they play, it's just crazy. They're putting up numbers. But when you have that situation where you can only rely on, your schedule and what it is, you have to be dominant to where it's like, okay, if we put these guys against XYZ, they can score points and do that. But if you're beating Michigan State and Nebraska and all these teams by like 3 and 7 and this, they'll be like, oh yeah, you guys don't deserve to be here.
Yeah.
Right. And so, great. Any given Saturday, anything can happen, but these style points definitely help teams like Indiana.
The Hoosiers moved up 5 spots. They just absolutely crushed Michigan State after trailing for the first time all season.
They probably jumped up so much because of this Ohio State matchup in 2 weeks. Right?
Their test is coming.
Their test is coming, and I'm going to be excited. As I said, they play a good brand of football, like as far as good defense, and they score points, right? They have an aggressive style of offense. And so I think that bodes well. I don't know if it'll, help them out when they go against the number 2 team in the country, but it's something you can definitely pride for, that it may be a good game if it comes down to it. Anything can happen any given Sunday.
BYU.
Or Saturday, sorry.
Saturday in this sport. BYU stays steady at 9. I mean, I know your answer. Do you think BYU should have moved up?
those guys.
Can you think objectively for 30 seconds for those guys? Should they have moved up?
No.
They didn't play. I'm kind of okay with it.
If they moved
Getting
up.
jumped by Indiana, Indiana's 9-0, BYU's 8-0. Kind of weird. BYU's schedule is much more challenging. BYU has 2 wins over top 25 teams. And until this week, the only losses Kansas State and SMU had were to BYU.
Right.
And that SMU win looks better and better by the week. SMU, by the way, 8-1. They move up 7 spots. The SMU Mustangs, who BYU beat in Dallas, are ranked 13th in the country.
How about that?
That's really good on the resume. And Kansas State remains in the poll at 22, by the way, at 7-2. They dropped 5 spots after their upset loss to Houston, which makes me think and look at that Houston-Utah game a little bit different. We'll get back to that here in a moment. But Notre Dame, BYU has now jumped Notre Dame. Notre Dame dropped 2 spots. They also were on a bye week. And Alabama still holding strong at 6-2. And then you finally get to your first group of 5 team at number 12, Boise State. By the way, if Boise State finished ranked ahead of the Big 12 champion, they would get one of those top 4 spots in the college football playoff or ACC or whatever. So something to look out there is
I didn't
Boise
know that
State.
fact. And so the Big 12 would be that
Everyone
large?
just assumed that the group of 5 conference champion, would not be ranked ahead of the other 4 champions in the college football playoff rankings. And we're going to find out Tuesday night where Boise State ranks. They're certainly going to be ranked there. But let's say, for instance, Boise State jumped BYU, and BYU was the top Big 12 team, Big 12 champ. Boise State would get one of those top 4 spots. BYU would be bumped down.
Wow.
So there's only the top 4 spots go to the top 4 conference champions. And after that, it depends on your college football playoff ranking.
Yeah.
That's why the rankings are important. And that's why when you watch the rankings on Tuesday night at 5 o'clock, you're not going to see them ranked by the top 4 conference champs. They're just going to have it 1 through 12. They're going to show you the 12 teams that are in that. And I think, the rankings go all the way to 25. They're just like normal. It's not going to be any different than it used to be. But instead of slotting them into those 4 top spots and showing you who they will have the 12 slots that are shown, but they're not going to do the conference thing. So that's where things stand with the top 25. And obviously there was a lot of things as it pertains to BYU that happened this week that shook things up. We mentioned the national games right there, but you go into the Big 12 slide, and the Big 12, there's no other way to put it this year. The Big 12 is drunk. The Big 12 has had too much to drink, and it needs a ride home because nobody expected what we're seeing. And it got even crazier this week.
Completely flipped, right?
How did Houston beat Kansas State? Texas Tech over Iowa State, I get that. Iowa State was due. They've been in close games all year. They found a way to win them, and
Tech has been tough.
They ran
year.
out of magic. I mean, they had, and Iowa State had some magic in that game. They score late, but Texas Tech just happened to have the ball last.
Right.
Give Texas Tech credit for getting that win. They're a good football team. Iowa State takes its first L in conference play. That's interesting for BYU. The Kansas State loss is interesting for BYU. Why? Well, BYU now has a 2-game lead over Kansas State,
right,
and owns a tiebreaker. There's only 2 teams with 1 loss now in the Big 12. Am I correct? Let me double check this real quick before
Colorado,
I say that.
Iowa State. Yeah.
Colorado and Iowa State. BYU does not play either of those teams. So tiebreakers, all that kind of stuff, that gets wild. But you have BYU all alone atop the Big 12 at 5-0 in conference play. That's it's crazy.
You got to give.
I'm sitting here and it sinks in. Like, didn't think this was in the offseason going to happen. I'm sitting here looking at it. We're in week 10 of the college football season. BYU's played 8 games. They're 5-0 in conference play, and they actually have a large margin of victory in conference play. They've scored 188 points in conference play to their opponent's 115. So they're not like Iowa State where they were just getting by and beating some teams in close games. BYU is they're the best team in the Big 12 right now. I don't know how you can argue it any other way. Maybe some Colorado fans want to do that, but Colorado lost to Kansas State, and BYU just absolutely trucked Kansas State.
Right.
So
style points.
Everybody needs to accept and understand whether you love them or hate them. And Sly, I appreciate you sitting here
I don't
As
want to
much
do
as
it
it
this
pains
week.
you-
I don't want to do it this week.
As much as it pains
we
you
can
on Rivalry
we can
Week,
revisit this next
on
week.
Rivalry Week, you have to sit here. And you have to admit that you like the promise of BYU football this year.
Don't you do it.
You have to admit it.
No, it was.
By the way,
I
your
actually love the promise of BYU basketball.
By your
Yeah,
BYU
you see
basketball
you
team.
see that on the end, folks? Did you hear that? It was basketball.
Your BYU Cougars basketball team starts play tomorrow night.
It was
Could be a special
basketball.
season for your BYU Cougars.
Oh my
men's
goodness.
basketball team.
Goodness, you're about to burn this radio station down right now.
I can totally see Sly just going total
I had to pause earlier. 'cause
postal. Maybe is that an politically incorrect term to say? Sorry to our friends of the Postal Service.
break stuff. No, I had to pause earlier because I was just gonna get on this, and I'm just like, but real talk, those guys definitely deserve.
Are they not getting enough love?
They should get more love. I mean, just look at the teams that they've played and those teams that they've played who they've beaten. Right, as you said, SMU jumps up, Baylor jumps up, Kansas State jumps up. Right, like, even Arizona when. The team that Arizona beat that was top 10, which was Utah. Utah was ranked 11th at the time. You got to give credit to that. UCF, the way they beat UCF.
By the way, did you see the UCF Arizona score?
From this past weekend?
Yes. Yeah.
It was ugly.
Oh, my gosh.
I did not watch that. I know Arizona
Let me
lost.
just say that UCF bounced back nicely after the loss to BYU.
Right.
What is wrong with Arizona? Like, we talk about Utah. Arizona was also hyped in the offseason, and they have not delivered. And they also may not go to a bowl game. I look at their situation. It's just crazy how this season has flipped. And obviously Kansas has gotten on track a little bit, but they aren't who they were supposed to be. Back to my comment about this conference being drunk. UCF 56, Arizona 12. How does that Arizona offense only muster 12 points against that UCF team we just saw the week before? Just absolutely give BYU whatever they wanted on offense.
I mean, literally just do jump balls to T-Mac, and that should give you more points than that, right?
That quarterback and that receiver, you should be winning more games. They're 3-6 now. Arizona is 3-6. They're 1-5 in conference play.
That is atrocious.
They are not going to make a bowl game unless they do some kind of miracle here at the end of the season. I don't see it happening. Oklahoma State's 3-6. 0-6 in Big 12 play. Another team that we thought was a contender is a pretender. They probably won't go to a bowl game, but guess who is going to a bowl game?
The bottom four teams, right?
Yeah.
The bottom four teams were expected to be the top five teams.
Yes. The only team that I think has,
Kansas State,
with some hype that has met expectations is Kansas State. And I'll also throw in there Iowa State. We praised Iowa State in the offseason. We talked about how they were going to be good. But you just look at these scores and you look at these results. Arizona State is 6-2. They're going to a bowl game. Arizona State, I'll save that for a couple weeks. That's the game that's left on the schedule for BYU that scares you.
Because it's at Arizona State, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Baylor has all of a sudden come back from the dead like The Undertaker. They're 5-4. They might save Dave Aranda's job. They beat TCU 37-34. Another game and another win that BYU got that looks a lot better now than it did when they got it.
Right.
So the results in the Big 12 are really fascinating. And I'll also mention SMU continues to win. That's helping BYU a lot. The Kansas State loss hurts BYU. But overall, BYU's in a fantastic position to make the Big 12 championship game. They're going to have access. They're going to have a shot. They're going to have an opportunity unless they just completely collapse over these last four games. But back to the rivalry, Sly. There's one team that can ruin everything. Utah. That rivalry game, things could get weird.
All the motivation I need.
Things could get weird. And that should be all the motivation that the Utah team needs. They have a chance to, I wouldn't say ruin BYU's season. That's not fair because BYU could still accomplish all their goals with a loss.
With a loss, yeah.
Because they'd still technically, even after that loss, be the favorite to get into that Big 12 game based on tiebreakers and everything working itself out. Because they don't play Colorado or Iowa State. Colorado doesn't play Iowa State. So things would work out in BYU's favor. But back to Utah, if the Utes need any reason to get up off the mat this week, this is it. And if they can't, if you can't breathe life into that program for this week, then I don't know what to tell you. Like if your coach is up there, it's like we got the wrong guys, right?
They have to like figure out something. They got to figure out something. Just like literally open your eyes. It's a much bigger picture, and that's what the great thing about sports is. It's not always one, right? Here's the problem: is everybody thinks Ricky Bobby, right? If you're not first, you're last.
Yep.
If you're not first, everything goes to crap. That is the mentality right now. But there's so much more, right? There's so much more to this that you're affecting by not waking up. Right, and that is people's future. That is, jobs. Look at Andy Ludwig.
Right,
and that's the first piece of the puzzle to fall. Like there's things that are at. I don't know what to say here. There are things that are so much bigger than your original goal. There's a lot of things under that. And so you got to keep fighting, The great thing about the college football playoffs, it gave the opportunity for multiple teams to get in, those Cinderella teams. Like, say we didn't lose to Houston, say we didn't lose to TCU, right? And we only had 2 losses instead of the 4 and a couple more. Like,
look at the way things are going right now.
We're right back in the mix, right? And we lost to those by a total of, 9 points? And so, Yeah, and so there's just a lot more things to play. If you guys wake up, there's a lot more things at the end of this. So you don't. I don't like losing in any capacity. So this 4-game losing streak has to be gut wrenching. So just wake up and make sure that that's not something that continues on.
There you go. We'll get into a rivalry game much more here coming up. I want to mention Trajan Wealth. Give them a call today. Your local financial fiduciary. 801-899-7600, or visit their website at TrajanWealth.com. If you need retirement planning, if you own a small business, you need a 401k for your employees, all these things, they can set you up. Anything that has to do with your finance, they can help you. Give them a call, 801-899-7600, or go to their website, TrajanWealth.com. We'll get into BYU preparing for the Utah rivalry game next on JJ and Alex, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Your home for the best college football coverage in Utah is on the KSL Sports Zone. Ready? Kalani Sitake and the Cougars hope to keep their dream season alive as they head north to the Hill for a showdown against the Utes. Your home for the best coverage of the Holy War is right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. This is JJ and Alex, presented by G2G Bars on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Welcome back, JJ and Alex, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Jeremiah Jensen, Alex Curie off today. Stevenson Sylvester stepping into the chair. And what perfect time for Sly to join the show than on Rivalry Week.
Yes, man, I'm glad that, the implications around this game is back. More so than the game. We've had the game on and off these last 10, 15 years, but the implications it's different. It's definitely different. So hopefully these guys that are now in the program can definitely understand what this is all about.
Here's a weird anomaly. The game Saturday is at Rice-Eccles Stadium. This is the first time in 6 years that this game has been played there.
I was wondering. I was like, did we play multiple years down
so
in LaVille?
In 2019, that game took place in Provo on the regular rotation. But remember, 2020, pandemic. Right. No BYU-Utah game. It was supposed to be played at Rice-Eccles Stadium. Well, because of obvious circumstances, it wasn't. But the 2021 game was already scheduled for Provo. So they played that game in Provo. And then Utah put Florida on the schedule for 2 years instead of BYU. They didn't play in 2022 and 2023. So that game finally is being played at Rice-Eccles Stadium. And, 6 years since the game has taken place there. So little factoid there that I don't think anyone's talked about. But, again, it just points to the fact that this rivalry has gone a little – am I using the wrong word? Is dormant the wrong word? It's quiet. Maybe quiet because they haven't played 3 out of the last 4 years.
Right. And even when they did.
Yeah. 2021 was not as weird as 2020, but it was still weird.
Yeah, it was definitely weird. It didn't have that normal energy. It just felt like a regular game. I know.
And I think a lot of Utah players treated it like that.
Well, yeah, exactly. Even, interviewing them after the game, it's just like it just didn't feel
right.
That, like, I think they were just going through stuff at that moment anyway, trying to figure their stuff out very similar to this year. But it just didn't have that type of energy, that type of effect, that type of want to about that game. And so, yeah, man, I'm excited for that to come back.
Before we get into some sound from Kalani Sitake, I want to ask you this question. What approach should coaches have with this game to get the players properly ready for this game? The intensity of it, the stakes of it, the crowd, everything that comes with it. You played in these games.
Mm-hmm.
I assume your coach has pushed all the right buttons. Although, as you told me last night, and I didn't even realize it, you went 1-3 in these games.
Right.
Which is weird because it just happened to time out that way. But your teams were certainly ready to play in all 4 of those games.
Oh, yeah.
So how should coaches approach this game? Is it okay to admit that it's different than every other week? Is it okay to maybe do things a little bit differently because it is so much different? How should they approach it?
That's difficult to say. It's more important than any other week. You know, it is rivalry week. There is a different level of identity around the game. You know, I think it's a little hard coaching it now than it was before because, you know, this was something that was in rotation. The veterans that were on the team could help filter the importance of this game. As far as these coaches are now, it feels like you have to reestablish what this is, right? And for me, that starts with the nostalgia. I would have had my video team up there creating stuff for this Monday meeting today, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, look, this is the history. This is what this game is. I want you guys to know what you are playing for, right? And I would have had my video team all out during the bye week, you know, getting, you know, testimonials, you know, from or just talking to the general public, the community about what this game is. Their memories of what this is when they were kids. Right, and tell the stories. I mean, you got guys like Sharif Morgan, who you know is very passionate about this. That can talk to that. But there's guys a part of this program that was a part of these major years, and honestly, that's where it starts. It starts with understanding the history behind the game, and then as the week goes on, you understand the importance as it comes in. As the community starts talking about it, you're talking about it in the classrooms, you're talking about it at the convenience stores, you're talking about it more and more, and you're like, geez, this is more than when we played TCU. This is more than when we played, you know, Arizona. Like, and then so you start to feel that more, and then you come into the stadium, you see it rocking. This game is so much about the people. I hope that people understand that. It's so much about you. I know they play the game, we're out there, but it's so much about the community, right? And then bulletin board material is all great. You know, I know BYU. Back in the day, BYU used to talk the most smack. Right?
That doesn't shock me.
This Jack Kelly saying, I hope we win, is so different for me coming this week. I'm normally used to hearing like Brian Kill or somebody talking about like, oh yeah, we're going to beat them, or who's the running back in 2006 with Martin, I think it was. He said Curtis Brown. Yeah, I don't know, Martin. Curtis Brown said something wild leading up into that game. That's what I'm used to coming into this game is something like that. The energy, the focus, the confidence from both teams, no matter their record heading into this. That's what I'm used to. So I think it starts there, right? Having these guys who are new a part of the program, even the local guys, have them come up and tell me their favorite memories from when they were a kid of what they remember of this game. But it starts with the history. It's about the community. So multiple people have to have input to really understand the magnitude of this game.
The magnitude of this game for BYU is massive, and it goes beyond the rivalry. This has college football playoff implications.
Right.
But Kalani is locked in on Utah. Let's hear from Kalani. First off, his respect that he has for Utah and this game. Or not. I guess we won't hear that. Someone's busy.
It'll come. It's all right. We don't need to.
He has a lot of respect for Utah, and he has a lot of respect for this game.
We don't need to hear about anybody down in Utah County anyway. I'd rather not. But, you know, I mean, Kalani's been a part of this as
Let's
a player.
Let's hear from Kalani now. We got him. Jeremy's up. Here we go. He has a lot of respect for you. You have the – what's that? You good? Okay. Yeah, you can play some rivalry sound from Kalani. Having some technical difficulties?
It's a spooky week.
Is something broken?
It's a spooky week. And that's what I want to. I want to hush. I want to hush BYU.
We were going to play
up.
the Kalani bites. Oh, you good? Okay. Okay. Just start from the top. We go with the respect for Utah in the game.
So I have a lot of appreciation and admiration for the University of Utah, their athletic department, the students, the faculty, staff, obviously the coaches, the program, and their fans. So it's interesting, the connections. I mean, I have an older brother that played there. You know, I have a sister that went to school there. Me and my other siblings came here to BYU, and I don't think I'm really that unique when it comes to family. I know there's a lot of families that are kind of split when it comes to this rivalry, which makes it even more fun.
And he also talks about how the rivalry game's a good thing to have each year. He wants to see this happen every single year. And, of course, now in the same conference, that's going to happen.
You know, the rivalry game, tough game coming up, and looking forward to the matchup. Obviously, I said it after the game, you know, there's a lot of connections. That's just from us and them. We have a lot of friends that play and coach there, and so there's a great connection between the two schools. I mean, I mentioned that we need each other. That's been always the case, and now that we're in the same conference, it's going to be fun that it's going to be a consistent thing that we get to count on this game being there every year.
And the cool thing now, and we'll get to Kalani here real quick, is having Utah on the schedule in the same league. For BYU and for Utah, it's a pretty cool thing. And I think this is going to take the rivalry to another level on a national stage eventually.
You know, you miss it, you know, so now that it's back, it's going to be a lot of fun. This is a really cool thing that we're both in the same conference and we're both in the Big 12, and how cool that is for us and for the fan bases. And when we've had this like separation, truly is a cool reunion. And I don't know what the result of the game is going to be, but I think the level of respect and admiration should be from both sides. And I think we maybe a little bit more understanding. We've seen what it's like to be away from each other, and now that we're back together, it's kind of nice to be reunited.
This leads me into a question I have for you, Sly. What impact do the head coaches have on the way that fans and the media handle this rivalry?
If not,
talk about it, cover it, view it.
If not the most, the most.
I agree with you.
They're everything.
Yep.
It goes back years, from the Lavelle days, Jim Fossil days, McBride days. They are catalysts, right? We played something, I think it was at the beginning of this year or last year, but it was a soundbite from Ron McBride when he took over the job here. He's like, I am your football coach, you know, and this is Utah football, but this is your team, but I am your football coach. And I'm like, just the energy that he took in saying that spoke volumes. I think they're the biggest catalysts
100%
of this. And I want to hear all the energy from them. I know there's a lot of reserve, you know, coming into this game, of course, what Utah's going through, the respect that they have for one another. But this is real. Right? This game is real. It has so many things on the line, as you said, CFP implications for BYU in the special season that they could have and do, and so on and so forth. But like Utah itself, you know, you got to come back. You got to stop this 4-game skid.
Yeah.
Right? It's spookier times, man. The last 4 games of the season is crazy, especially if it's a rivalry game to start that off. That is huge. So there's a lot of pressure on BYU. But Utah's got to step up, too. There's a lot riding on this game, and you got to take this more serious than ever, because the last thing you want to do is let I've been giving those guys a name here in this last segment. I didn't mean to do that. Is let
he got himself.
Is let those guys have any momentum going into the offseason. Right? Those 364 days are long when you lose. For BYU, for those guys down there, it was 4,000 plus days. We showed it on the news last night. It's been 4,000 plus days since they had a win against us. And so, I think the coaches play a huge role in it. And this is huge. I don't care who you're looking at. Somebody has to tell me why this is not big.
Yeah. I think both coaches understand it, and I think Kyle downplayed it for a while. I love that Kalani's kind of going all in on it and embracing it, but in a very healthy way. It's not a toxic situation with Kalani at all. And one of the reasons why is because he's coached at both places. Right? He mentioned earlier his family ties to both schools, but he coached at Utah and now coaches at BYU. He has a unique perspective.
it was different when I got there as a coach, because I got to know a lot of the fans and amazing people, the administrators, people that are involved with the university. And man, it was awesome. Just great people. And not a lot different than a lot of people that I knew here at BYU, and so it was nice to make friends and to have lifelong friends and to work with them and then to be centered around football. But like, there's some really good people there and quality experience that I had. I mean, I had some awesome times. And I just wish everybody could have that perspective from my angle. I still want to, I'm competitive. I want to win this game. There's nothing wrong with me being appreciative of them, appreciate what they do as a program and as a university.
And I think that's the perspective that we need to have moving forward with this rivalry, because I do think it's going to intensify as far as the importance of the game.
Right.
Whether you like it or not, listening, because
it's Monday.
They're going to be playing on a Power 4 stage in the Big 12. They're going to be the premier rivalry in this league. And you're going to be competing for a chance to go to the college football playoff each and every year. One or the other, or maybe both. So this game takes on even more meaning than it's ever been in the past.
Right.
I don't care what's happened in the past, how amazing some of those finishes were. The stakes have never been this high. Outside of Utah going to the BCS in 2004 and 2008, but even that pales in comparison to going to the playoff. Because even those teams, the team you were on in 2008,
national champions.
You went to the BCS, but you didn't have access to the national championship game. Right. The college football playoff is that access. And
you want to get, just like the March Madness, you want to give yourself the best opportunity,
100%.
Best path, right?
100%.
And so by you winning out and you doing that, you give yourself the best path to do that.
And so the rivalry is going to get bigger as far as the importance of this game, whether you like it or not. Embrace it, but embrace it the right way. You don't have to F you, this and that, but you want to win the game. But I think all of us can understand, like, a little bit of civility, a little bit of the tempering was in need. Things got a little nasty. When the coach's family can't sit in the stadium without having things said or being pushed and shoved and having stuff thrown, we need to calm down a little bit, right?
Right.
Would we all agree with that?
You're right.
I think you're going to have the perfect stewards of the rivalry moving forward with Kalani, and of course Morgan Scalley's going to take over for Coach Whittingham when he decides to retire.
Both former players from those schools, yeah.
That understand it, but also understand the importance of doing it with respect and having a respect and love for each other, kind of like Ron McBride and Lavelle Edwards. And I think it's going to make it a lot of fun moving forward to have that kind of relationship there. And I can see that developing here. All right, we got to take a break. But first, nominate the youth sports volunteer that you know for the Hercules Hero of the Week. Submit your nomination at KSLSports.com/contest and listen every Thursday afternoon to JJ and Alex for the winner. Help us celebrate the efforts of those volunteers making an impact with the Hercules Hero of the Week. It's sponsored by Hercules First, Federal Credit Union, and Beehive Meals. I know a lot of you had kids that played youth football, team moms, coaches. So many people out there deserve some recognition. Let's give them that recognition. Go to KSLSports.com/contest and enter your favorite person to see if they'll win. All right, we got Weekend Warriors coming up next. JJ and Alex, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Your home for the best college football coverage in Utah is on the KSL Sports Zone. Ready? It's another Holy War showdown as Kyle Whittingham and the Utes square off against the Cougars in Rice-Eccles Stadium. Your home for the best coverage of the Holy War is right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. This is JJ and Alex, presented by G2G Bars on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Weekend Warriors is brought to you by Gillette Heating and Air. Right now, get seasonal maintenance done on your furnace for only $59. See GilletteHVAC.com to make an appointment. That's GilletteHVAC.com. Sly, should Jackson Dart, Ole Miss quarterback, former Roy and Corner Canyon quarterback here in Utah, in high school, should he be getting Heisman Trophy love?
Is he not?
He's not in the top.
This guy, he's doing it in so many different ways, leading this team in the most considerable, hardest conference out there. Watching him each and every week, knowing that we covered him in high school, both at Roy and Corner Canyon, is actually awesome. But like to see his development and where he's at, leading Ole Miss and how confident there's a serious worry as an opponent going against Ole Miss. And that fear right there is deserving of, a Heisman recognition, let alone the numbers that he's putting up.
Well, how about these numbers? 515 yards, 6 touchdowns, and his wide receiver, Jordan Watkins, had 5 of those touchdowns for 254 yards. Here's what it sounded like.
Dart over the middle, touchdown. Another one, the remix, Jordan Watkins. Yeah, it's 4. Count them, not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4.
Ole Miss beat Arkansas 63-31. The NFL. Wow, Sunday was fun. And there is some incredibly talented receivers in the NFL. And we discovered one this weekend. Demarcus Robinson of the LA Rams, a one-handed game-winning catch in overtime.
Up in short motion, Stafford takes a snap, 2nd and 6, bootleg left side. He flips his hips, he fires, he's going deep. DeMarcus brought it in with one hand in the end zone for a walk-off touchdown.
Oh, that game was so good. Rams Seahawks in overtime. Huge win for the Rams because they go into Seattle and get a win. The Seahawks would have moved to 5-4 with a win. Instead, they're 4-5 and last in the division. There's one game separating all 4 teams in the NFC West. It's pretty nuts. So that was dramatic. We also have one more dramatic finish from the NFL this weekend. That's terrific Bass. How about Tyler Bass of the Buffalo Bills, a game winner from how far?
Snap by Ferguson, hold by Martin. Kick by Bass is long enough. And it is good! Bobs away for Tyler Bass, who bombs it from 61!
It's one thing to kick a game-winning field goal in the NFL, but to do it from 61 yards? So we're seeing all these one-handed touchdown grabs, game-winning catches by receivers. We're seeing kickers in the NFL now, it's just routinely kicking 60-yard-plus field goals.
Right. New standard.
Crazy.
New standard. All these kids that are going up as kickers, I need to be able to kick 58+ yard field goals.
I'm telling you, the NFL has never been better. It was a great weekend. All right, we got to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk to our colleague, Sam Farnsworth. He'll join us. It's Rivalry Week.
What a guy.
He grew up around this thing. He gets it. He knows it. We're going to look back on a lot of great memories coming up next on JJ and Alex, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.